to the light. Open window, a challenge for your mind. If we only try, looking at our world through another perspective, learning how our lives are connected. Open window, a way for us to see. Open window, how different things could be. Open window, a passage to the light. Open window, a challenge for your mind. If we only try.
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome to our show today. Back by popular demand is Mr. C. Frank Johnson. He's going to be talking about something that you want to hear, so don't you turn the channel. Right now, I'd like to ask you to continue to watch us on Open Window, because we've heard lots of comments from you, and we do appreciate your phone calls, we appreciate the email, we appreciate your letters, but continue to watch us here on Open Window. We're giving you information through businesses throughout the metropolitan Atlanta area, and through lots of folk who want to say, I got something to say and I want to be on your program. So I want you to be sure to stay tuned for more shows coming up. But today I want to welcome back with us Mr. C. Frank Johnson, a professional investment person. So glad to have you back. You were on our show a couple of months ago, and I tell you, you gave us so much information. People called in, and you talked about money and how to kind of manage your money. And God knows I need all the money I can get, but I need to know how to manage that little bit I do have. Yes. But I am just so excited to have you back, because you're going to go into some more details with another aspect of investments. And we want to get into that and get as much of it on the program today as possible. Okay?
Exactly.
Okay, let's go back and look at some, and talk about some of those. Let's do a little preview about some of the things that we talked about before.
All righty, well, let me set the stage here. As you said, I am a financial analyst with one of the largest financial service companies in the world. And what we do is we help people manage their money, and instead of their money managing them. And there are some basic principles that control how your money works, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And before we get into that, since I'm going to be dealing with some specific numbers, I have a disclaimer to put out. You know, the lawyers are like that. I'm going to touch base on some things. They work just like it says, but they may not work that way for you. So before you make any investment decisions, before you decide to make any type of personal financial move, please seek the advice of a competent investment professional who has your specific personal interests at heart and knows your personal numbers. These informations that I'm going to give now are generic. They apply across the board, but make no decisions until you have seen a personal financial analyst for yourself. And with that being said, I'll move on.
Okay, okay.
I've been in this business for about 10 years, and it has struck me over time, talking to so many people, that very few of our people have any real knowledge of how money works. We know how to work very, very hard for money, but to make that money work equally hard or harder for us seems to be eluding us. So over time, I've come to the conclusion that before I even try to tell anybody, why don't I show them how money works? There are the few basic principles that you need to know in order to get a handle on this thing. And that's what I'm going to cover now.
Okay, okay. And there are some principles, so we're going to get into that right now. We're going to get right on into this, because the last time you were on the show, time went by so fast, and there
It
was
does.
so much information that you had to cover, so I'm going to let you go right on into it. This is almost like being in the classroom now. So you got to make sure that you get your pencils or whatever you need so you can take notes and whatever, okay? Because he's going to give out some good information today, and I want you to be very attentive, okay?
Very good. Like I said, there are certain basic principles that affect how your money works. One of the first of these principles and foremost is one called the Rule of 72. And the Rule of 72, have you ever heard of that, by the way?
You talked a little bit about that the last time you were on the show.
But before then, had you ever heard of it?
No, absolutely not. No, of course not. No.
Well, you didn't have to feel strange, and you don't have to feel strange now.
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. No, I haven't, okay?
Well, over 95% of the people in this country have never heard of it either. Yet 100% of the people in this country are affected by it. If you have any type of loan or installment or whatever, in one way or another, you're affected by the Rule of 72. Now, what in the world is this Rule of 72? Well, it's an old accounting principle, and what it does is it tells you how long it takes for one invested dollar to double and become $2 simply by dividing whatever rate of return or interest you're receiving on your account into the number 72. Now, what in the world is that? I have an example here on the board, if we can get a camera on it.
Okay, let's see if we can get a shot of that. Just a second.
Okay. And we are through the maze of technology.
All right, now, because, you know, a lot of times we see things a little bit better. Oh, before we go into that, I tell you what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break right now and get all this set up because somehow we can't get that shot on there.
Okay.
But don't you go away now because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Rule of 72. So you just sit tight now, get your pencil, go out there, call up somebody, and tell them to look at us right here on Open Window because we've got some information that's going to open up your window. Stay tuned.
This is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome back to our show. Mr. C. Frank Johnson is here again with us, and he's going to be talking about how to make your money work for you. You know, we're always working for money, but let's find out how to make the money work for us. Now, before we left, you got onto, well, we had to get this camera turned around here, you know, I tell you, this technology stuff.
Yes.
But we wanted to show this chart because you're going to be the teacher in the class today.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there's so much information that you have to impart to us as to how to get our money to work for us. And I'm pretty sure we have the audience out there with their pen and pencil getting ready to write this down. But we started talking about the Rule of 72, and I told you, I don't know about what is the Rule of 72? I know you brought this up the last time you were on the program, but just go back and refresh our memory.
Okay. And just at the break, we were saying that the Rule of 72 is an old accounting principle. It's as old as its economy. And what it does is it shows us how long it will take for one invested dollar to double and become $2 simply by dividing whatever rate of return or interest you're receiving on your account into the number 72. Now, what in the world does that mean? We have an example here on the board, and we will go through step by step and try to bring a little bit of clarity, no, a lot of clarity to it.
Okay.
Okay. And this first example up here at the top, we have 3%. And 3%, as you'll notice in most banks, is what we get in our community at the banks, credit unions, savings and loan, and in those cash type insurance policies. And if, according to the rule of 72, if you divide that 3 into the 72, it will go 24 times. What that means is in 24 years, your money will double. Now, right off the bat, is 24 years a long time or a short time?
Well, it's a long time. 24 years. I mean, a week sometimes is a long time, but 24 years, it's a long time.
Well, let's just see how it actually works out in an example. And that's what this is, an example. And in this example, we have an individual who had $2,000 to put away. It doesn't take $2,000 or $1,000 or even $100 to take advantage of this program. You can do it for less. But in this particular example, we had $2,000. And this individual invested that $2,000 at 3% and just forgot about it and let it grow. And sure enough, in 24 years, it doubled. In 24 more years, it doubled again.
Yeah.
But look at the age and look at the amount. At this age, is this amount meaningful as far as your total livelihood is concerned?
Well, with me, no. It's meaningful. Yeah, I would love to have that, but I would love to have that other figure over there too.
Well, we're going to get to that
at that particular age, yes. Because I'm almost reaching that now. Come on. Okay.
Tell me anything.
Okay.
But at any rate, at this age, $8,000 is your total net worth. Leaves a lot to be desired. You got to pay bills, pay off house, car, whatever. So what happened is this kind of comes up short. Well, what happened is the people who really put this together originally hundreds of years ago, they looked at this same thing and they said, it's got to be a better way. It's got to be a better way to do this. So they played with those numbers and they discovered that any time the interest rate or rate of return was double digits, 10% or greater, this relationship took on a whole new complexion. It became virtually a whole different animal. And we have an example of a double digit here at 12%. And following suit like we did before, we're going to divide that 12 into 72, and we find it goes 6 times. What that means is in 6 years, your money will double.
Will double.
Now already, is 6 years better than 24?
Oh, absolutely so.
So we're ahead of the game already, but the question is, how much ahead of the game are we really? Let's just follow and make a direct comparison with the original example we looked at. In that first example, 3%, we put away $2,000. Well, let's put away $2,000 at 12%. And let's go to the same age that we went to in the first example, but look at what we wind up with.
Wow, okay. Now, I like that figure.
Is that a substantial difference? Is this a substantial difference over what we had originally?
Absolutely so.
Could you possibly pay a light bill or two and maybe buy some groceries with
just
that?
a few. Just a little bit. Few light bills and maybe lots of, well, a lot of meatballs or something, you know, whatever.
Well, I submit to you that that's how very wealthy people have done it. They haven't been out just working harder than anybody out here in the street that you know. In fact, most people who are of modest means, I'm not going to say poor, but of modest means, work very hard. In fact, harder than very wealthy people. What is missing is the aid that the wealthy people get from their money working harder than they're working. So it's not a fair contest. We're working by ourselves, they're working, and their money is working. That's what happened. That's the rule of 72.
So the rule of 72 is how many years, approximately how many years it takes to double your investment.
Exactly.
You know what? I want you to hold it right there because I've got a question I want to ask you in just a moment, but don't you go away now because we've got to take a break right here, okay?
This is Vicki White, host of Open Window. We are interested in creating programming based upon local organizations and services. Please accept this invitation to call us or email us with your interests, ideas, and concerns. Let's review them. We're also in need of sponsors.
You know trouble can start when the clock hits 3. When there's no place after school for kids to be. Nothing to do but hanging on city streets. When mom and dad are working to make ends meet. Now it's time to beat the street.
With after-school programs, city kids aren't left alone and vulnerable. They keep on learning between 3 and 6, but these programs need your support. Join with the Urban League to keep them going. Call now, because it's
Time to beat the street.
Our world through another.
Hi, welcome back to Open Window. You got to stay tuned because Mr. C. Frank Johnson is back with us by popular demand. He's a financial analyst, and he's talking about how to make our money work for us, because we're always working for money. But how can we get it to work for us? Now, we've talked about the rule of 72. Basically, that's how long it takes for you to double your investment.
Exactly.
But the question I wanted to ask you, we looked at a chart, and the magic number on that chart was $2,000. We started, well, you know, you said that was approximate. Let's just take a number, 2,000. The average person, and you know where I'm going, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Myself and my friends don't have $2,000. Now, we've got to start a little bit lower, but that should not deter us from doing this, should it?
No, ma'am. We can start for as little as $50 and $50 a month, getting it started. So really, that 2,000 was just purely a generic example. You make regular contributions over that same period of time we saw in the previous example, and it will accomplish the same thing.
We started, I believe that chart started with what, age 18? Was that?
You can start at any age.
But my question was this: should we not start very early?
At birth. At birth is key. There's a program that your government has put in place. It's called the UGMA program, UGMA, Uniform Gift to Minors Act. And it allows you to put away money in the name of a minor child and get tax favored treatment for it. And again, I recommend that you would get direct personal qualified counseling before you go any further with it. But to answer your question, Ms. Vicki, yes, as soon as possible. As soon as possible. Many very wealthy folks, even when the child is first born, they have these accounts established because these accounts are time sensitive. So why waste 18 years that they could have their money working for them and, you know, waiting for them to grow up? So by the time they turn 18, a lot of times they're already set for life. These programs work regardless of what age you start at. So the earlier, the better.
Wonderful idea to start something like this as far as investments and savings for children at a very early age. Instead of buying certain kinds of things, we can okay, we got to set this aside for this amount of money, and we would be very surprised at how this rule of 72 could work for us. How about that? I interrupted you, teacher. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, that rule of 72 that we saw in the previous example shows us how to make our money grow, how to make our money move to places it hasn't been before. Now, question, once we've gotten our money up to those 6- and 7-figure heights, what do we do with it? Do we just eat, drink, and, how do they say, be merry until it's gone? It's taken years to get there. Wouldn't it be nice if we can have our cake, if you will, and eat it too? And there is a way to do that, and that's through what I call the endowment principle. All that is allowing your money to ride at interest. In other words, you pull only the earnings off on an annual basis, and you leave the principal intact. Think about it. If you never pull out of the principal, then the principal will be there year after year after year and available to renew itself. And what we're going to do in this example here is to show you exactly the numbers that are relevant to that, okay? And in this particular example here, we have an example of the complete process. At first, we were talking about the accumulation phase, and then we're going to take money out. The accumulation phase here works the same as we saw originally. In this particular example, these individuals put away a lump sum, one time, $10,000. And again, it doesn't take 10, it doesn't take 2, it doesn't even take 100.
Start with 50.
We can start with 50.
Okay.
We can start with 50.
Okay.
The reason this is on here is because 10,000 is a standard in the investment industry for investment comparison. So that's why they used it. So everybody will be on the same page. Now, we have a direct comparison between where most of us are and that rule of 72 kicking in with what's called compound interest. In this particular case, both of these individuals had a lump sum of $10,000 that they put away. One put it in the bank, the other put it in the stock market, which is where you get 12%. You put it in the stock market, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. And they put it in and they let it ride. They just forgot about it existed, and 30 years later, they decided it's time to retire, it's time to quit hitting the bricks, and this is the result that we had. In the case of the individual with the bank account, he's got about $60,000. In the case of the investment in the stock market, he's got over $1/3 million. Now, at this point, this individual, I'll call him Bob, he decided, let's hit the road. Let's get our Winnebago out, let's hit the road, and let's...
$359,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So he's going to take this $359,000 and he's going to start pulling some money out. In this example, he's pulling $1,000 a month out.
And that $1,000 a month will be the interest. Is that?
That's the earnings off. That's some of the earnings off the account.
Let's take a break a moment because this is getting real deep, and don't you go away.
Question. What do you call a guy who makes a baby, then flies the coop?
In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or shelter to the homeless. There is no ordinance forcing you to visit the lonely. In fact, nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have to provide anything for anybody. Thank you for all you've given. Imagine what more could do.
When you mentor a child, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. Do good. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
Hi, this is Open Window. Do you know how to make your money work for you? Well, I tell you, we have somebody right here on our show, backed by popular demand, Mr. C. Frank Johnson, who's telling us how to make our money work for us. Now, we've talked, Mr. Johnson, a little about the rule of 72, which means how long it takes to double your money. We've gone on over into the endowment principle. Instead of taking all of your money out of your investment, you only work on a little bit of that interest.
On the interest,
and
yes.
Leave that principle in there. Don't go in there and take all your money out and go out there and buy that new Mercedes.
Give it a little while, and you can pay cash for all the Mercedes you ever want to get.
Pick up from there.
Okay. Getting right back to the issue, what we were mentioning at the break was, at this point here,
that's after 30 years.
After 30 years. Now, it doesn't take 30 years, by the way. This was a very passive example. What happened is that these two individuals, the guy at 12% I call Bob, and the one at 6% I call John.
And now Bob is investing?
In the stock market.
In the stock market.
John is investing at 6% in the banks, credit unions, savings and loan, and those cash type insurances.
Okay.
This isn't to say that those are bad places, by the way. They have their purposes. But what happened is that if your purpose is to have your money grow maximally, that is not it. Okay? All right. So, Bob at this point decided he wanted to go ahead on and retire. He wanted to stop hitting the bricks. But as in most people's case, the pension that he had off his job, Social Security, was not coming up to what he needed. So he started supplementing it with $1,000 a month out of his $359,000. And in this example, he did that for 20 years.
So, okay, now Bob has invested. After what, 20 years, or let's just say half of this, 15 years, he decided to just take $1,000
a month.
A month.
Yes.
Out of this.
Out of the $359,000, he's taking $1,000 a month out. Now, here's what's happening. $1,000 a month times 12 months in a year is $12,000 a year. And he did it for 20 years, so 20 times $12,000 is $240,000. Now, over this 20-year period, Bob took $240,000 away from that $359,000. Normal thinking tells us that he should have what? Less money in the account, right?
Right.
I took 240 from 350.
Right.
But instead, take a look at what he has. Bob has almost $3 million. And before everybody rolls over, you say, now, I was following you up to this point. What type of smoke and mirrors did we use to get to here?
How did you get that $3 million?
Okay. What happened, Bob was pulling money out, true enough, but he wasn't bothering the principal, and he wasn't pulling all of the money that it produced
He
out.
let that principal stay down
He
here.
let the principal, plus the principal produced the first year, 12% of $359,000 is over $46,000 the first year. The first year. So what happened, he only pulled out $12,000. He left $34,000 in addition to the $359,000.
Wow, and each year he was adding
Each
money.
year, that extra money that he did not take out grew.
Ooh, wow.
And it continued to grow, and it multiplied, because every year he had more to take out. So what happened, he never did. He kept on taking the same amount, and as a consequence, it continued to grow and grow and grow. So at the end of 20 years, instead of him having less money, he had almost $3 million. Now again, this is purely for an example. But it does work this way. $3 million. Now, because of that, Bob was in a unique situation. Bob was in a situation where, if you look at it, he was never in a fixed income trap. If Bob needed more money, didn't he have it? He could reach over here and get some more money out of the account anytime down the line here. He had more money available to him. So he was never in a fixed income trap. And two, he was in a position now, if you notice how fast it's growing, it's obvious that if Bob doesn't do anything really dramatic, this thing is going to outlive him. So now Bob is in the position to be on the good foot, if you will, with a verse of scripture in Proverbs that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
I like
Exactly.
that. Okay.
So Bob is now in a position to do both of those things. Now, meanwhile, John, on the other hand,
Let's talk about John when we come back. Don't you go away. We got much more for you. Stay tuned.
Who says you gotta have sex? You could get AIDS or get somebody pregnant. When it comes to sex, make the right choice. Use your head.
Guys disappear when a baby shows up. Be a man. Be responsible.
Hi, I'm a person that likes to stay on top of events in my community. That's why each week I watch Open Window. It's a community-based program that also is an excellent awareness forum. Watch Open Window every week at these times.
Hi, this is Open Window, and welcome back to our show. Our guest today is Mr. C. Frank Johnson. He's a financial analyst, and he's been giving us some good information on